One. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Colonel's Corner. I am thrilled to introduce Phil. Do you pronounce your last name Turney?
Yes.
And
Yes.
you guys know that I have done extensive research into the USS Liberty and that we tried to contact these guys. They in turn have now contacted us, and we're here today. And I could not be more thrilled. Phil and I were just talking a little bit off camera, and I'm going to let him introduce himself. For those of you who have not met him and are not familiar with him, we're going to basically talk a little bit about the history prior to the Liberty arriving at the faithful destination. And then we're going to put some added context into some very recent events that has unfolded that kind of paints a completely different picture than most had of the USS Liberty. So Phil, go ahead and introduce yourself for the audience.
Yeah, thanks. My name is Phil Turney. I live in Colorado on the Western Slope. I'm the president of the Liberty Veterans Association. I'm a four-time president and one-time chairman. So I've been doing this a long time to get the truth out, the real truth out about the USS Liberty and why it happened. And I must say, when I did an interview with Candace Owens in her studio in Memphis, it was quite an experience. What a good gal, what a wonderful person she is, and I've been doing this pretty much nonstop ever since, with the help of my friend John Dixon. He kind of coordinates everything for me and gets me set up doing different things because I'm doing so much now. In fact, I'm leaving for uh, Monday for Ohio, Idaho. Have you ever heard of the Old State Saloon?
I have. That's
Uh,
where Ian Carroll did a bunch of his work at.
right, I'm headed there this Monday, so it'll be Tuesday and Wednesday, and I'll get back Thursday. My wife's going with me, but yeah, if you want to get started, I'll follow along and let's see what we can uncover.
Okay, so we're going to start with the history. Now, leading up to 1967, you had many things going on. And of course, with the recent commitment from President Trump to release the JFK files, I want to start there because JFK, during JFK's presidency, there was a plan that was written in coordination with the CIA and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Leminsker. And that plan was called Operation Northwood. Now, there wasn't a lot of new material in there because basically it captured all of the CIA / Department of Defense, State Department false flag operations that had been going on for the last 150 years. But it was very surprising that they committed it to paper. That was kind of the big takeaway. And it was briefed to the SecDef. It was also briefed to JFK. And JFK was so profoundly disturbed because by that time he'd already fired Allen Dulles. So he tells Lyman Leminsker basically to pack his bags. Now, he's not going to be the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff any longer, but because they had just went through the Bay of Pigs, he didn't want to outright fire him. So he moved him to NATO. Unbeknownst to him, NATO was in charge of Operation Gladio, which basically is the king of all false flags. So Lyman Leminsker is at NATO. Charles de Gaulle, who was all about freedom in the African continent of former European colonies, and JFK got to be very good friends. Well, Lyman Leminsker, while he is the commander of NATO, there is over 20 assassination attempts on Charles de Gaulle. So Lyman Leminsker and NATO is kicked out of France. First time that had ever happened. France was withdrawn from NATO. They moved to Belgium. Now, Belgium is where it was when we get to the USS Liberty 1967 timeframe. And so Lyman Leminsker is the commander of NATO when NATO assassins were deployed to Dallas, Texas. Now, of course, if we're going to eventually get to a regime change in Egypt, which I'll talk about in a minute, it's important to get JFK out of the way. And I know people are locked into exactly why they think JFK was assassinated. There's about 7 reasons why he was assassinated, and this is number one. One of the 7, not the number one. But JFK was committed to freeing the imperial forces out of Africa, working with Patrice Lumumba and many others in order to get the colonial powers out and open up the true potential for Africa. Well, that's a problem for some people like the UK and Israel, who were stealing all of their diamonds. So in collusion with Cecil Rhodes' disciples, they had captured basically all of the diamond mines, and Israel becomes the world's diamond center with not a single diamond. There's no diamonds in Israel. They're all coming from Africa. Well, the one thing that provided Israel protection from the entire continent of Africa is Egypt and the Suez Canal. The UK had forever occupied the Suez Canal, and it was kind of the breach point, front defense for Israel. Well, Nasser, just prior to all of this happening, kicks the UK out of the Suez Canal. Now, UK in response goes to Yemen. They basically own the port of Aden. And I'm using that kind of, they don't actually own it, but they control the port of Aden. They collude with everybody, to include the Saudi Arabia, to pinch Yemen. So now Yemen is fighting basically a 2-front war. And I'm saying all of this, guys, because this is still going on today. Yemen is still fighting a 2-front war. Egypt is still pivotal to everything. Israel is still pivotal to everything. Everything I'm telling you is in context to what's going on today, which is why I am so grateful that Phil provides the kind of connection from the history to the current. And so what you find is Egypt, they come to Yemen's rescue. They send 75,000 troops to Yemen. Well, there is a system that people who have been following me for a long time know existed at the time, and that was called Crypto AG. You never hear anybody talking about Crypto AG. And it's particularly interesting in relation to the mission of the USS Liberty, because Crypto AG was an encrypted capability that was sold to 120 countries that allowed the CIA and the German BND, their counterpart, to eavesdrop on every country's communication system sent internally and externally on this equipment. So the US and Israel knew unequivocally that Egypt had sent those, because Egypt had bought the system. They had sent those 75,000 troops, leaving Egypt particularly vulnerable at that exact time that the USS Liberty sails into those waters. They know when to attack, because they knew when Egypt committed those forces to Yemen. So when you understand the setup that is going on, the fact that the Suez was pivotal to all of this, Israel's role in Africa, Nasser's support of the Pan-African movement to free, finally, all of the colonial forces out of Africa, and Nasser being a leader in all of this. Now you understand Yemen's support for the PLO and how Hamas was basically invented as a counterweight to the PLO by the West, because Yemen and the PLO, the Palestinians, and Nasser were all collectively working on a solution that the West did not support. So we've got one last piece before I turn it over to Phil. Pine Gap began in 1962 as what was sold to the West and to everybody, frankly, an intelligence military installation in Australia. That installation changed forever the ability to track and communicate worldwide. It was several years later that Pine Gap was discovered not to be a military installation, but a CIA installation. When the Prime Minister of Australia found that out, he tried to kick them out, and they regime changed him. That's how critical Pine Gap is. Now, Pine Gap is basically, for those of you who don't understand, and I'll let Phil fill in the gaps because he obviously is much more knowledgeable about this, but I was just sharing with him, my military experience was at a base that did a land-based version of what the Liberty did mobile. And this is a critical time in the 1960s when we were developing the mobile technology. So when I got to San Vito Air Station in Italy, we had a fixed SIGINT signal intelligence, what they called an elephant cage. It did stationary what the Liberty did mobile. But when they were doing it, it was a brand new, basically a brand new technology that the kind of the nerve center was Pine Gap. It actually opened its doors in 1962. And they were basically, we had already fielded satellites to basically be what you and I call GPS today. And they were testing simultaneously the accuracy of the satellite capability and tracking, as well as the communications ability that was not over landlines. So all of this is brand new. And the crew on the USS Liberty is testing this technology, and it was amazing actually at the time. If you go back and read some of the history of what was actually being fielded that we didn't find out about until like the 1980s and 90s. These guys were state of the art mission being used. So Phil, I'm going to turn it over to you and kind of let you fill in from how you guys got your mission launched and then your arrival, and then we'll put some more into context.
Okay, thank you, Roxanne. The USS Liberty came about. It was an old mothball ship called the Simmons Victory. It was they call them a one-wayer. It was a cargo ship. They took it out of mothballs and took it up to Bremerton, Washington, and they refurbished it. It was it cost $40 million to get that ship right. And in the 1960s, $40 million went a long ways. So our ship was the state of the art, the most sophisticated spy ship in the world at that time. Yeah. In fact, we could bounce signals off the moon and send them back to National Security Agency within 3 seconds. That's how sophisticated it was then. Think about what it can do now. There's no telling. But we were ordered, well, we were on a regular steaming. We were going from Norfolk, that was our home base, we always went up and down the coast of Africa, the west coast of Africa. And that's where we headed on our third and last cruise. I did 3 cruises aboard the Liberty. The only one I missed was the first one, the shakedown cruise. But we were headed to Africa, as we usually did, and we got to Abidjan. That was about in the afternoon, say 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, something like that. And around 6:37, 8 o'clock, all hell broke loose, and they said, "You guys got to go. You got to get out of here." And so the captain said, "Round everybody up, get them back aboard ship. If you can't find them, leave them, because we're headed out of here." That's how fast we had to get underway. And we did get everybody back aboard ship, and we took off for parts unknown. We didn't know where we were going.
And
we were putting that old ship just as fast as it could go.
When was that, Phil?
That was in early June.
Okay.
Early June, the 4th or 5th. It might have been the 3rd. We got to Rota, Spain. We picked up 3 linguists. That was 3 Marines. 2 of them were killed, by the way, and another linguist. He was a former CT communication technician, as yourself. He worked for the NSA and CIA, and he came aboard. Alan Blue, he was also killed. But we took off from Rota and headed into the Mediterranean. And then we knew we were going into a war zone. The war had already started. Now, I might add this. Have you ever heard of Frontlet 615?
I'm
What that
sorry.
meant was it was a mission frontlet 615.
Okay, go
The
ahead.
615 stands for the 6th of June. I mean, June the 15th. But Israel got antsy and started the war early.
Correct.
So that's one of the reasons we took off as quick as we did. But uh, my belief and most of the crew's belief is this just didn't happen like that. We were sent there for a reason, possibly a year in advance. This was planned because it wasn't planned out just at the spur of the moment. Uh, we were set up by our government to go into a war zone. We asked for destroyer escort, not once but twice, and were denied by Admiral John S. McCain Jr. He was a senior commander of the European theater. He said, "You guys got a American flag. You got USS Liberty on the stern of it. You got your hull numbers on the front, GTR 5, which stands for Geographical Technical Research, and ours was the fifth ship in that fleet, and they quit making them after that. But
And
we got on.
can I add,
Sure.
Phil, that's not at all atypical of Navy and the CIA and all this bullshit, because they did the exact same thing to the USS Indianapolis in the Pacific during World War II. When they took the warheads over there, they left them without an escort, and knowing that the subs were going to get them, and they court-martialed the surviving captain. The Navy is one of the most cruel ass survivor services that has ever existed.
I happen to agree, and I look back at the Indianapolis. What those poor men had to go through is unthinkable. Unthinkable what they did to them.
Yes, and it's the exact same thing that happens with the USS Liberty, and that's why history is so important. Phil's story is not an isolated incident with our government and the USS Navy, or the U.S. Navy. All right, so
that's fine. Absolutely. Well, Roxanne, we got on station on June the 7th, and that was right off the Sinai coast. We were doing 12.5 miles off the coast of the Sinai. We were always in international waters. On the 7th of June, we started seeing Israeli aircraft. These were DC-3, a flying boxcar. I'm sure you know what that is.
Yep.
And smaller aircraft. All of them with the Star of David on them. They would look at us. They would come by us so low you could even feel the deck rattling. I mean, it was, you could see the pilots. We'd wave at them and they'd wave at us. We knew we didn't have any help there, no destroyer escort, nothing. But we see the Star of David, and that's our ally. You know, we felt comfortable because we thought, you know, we could see the bombs going off on the shore. Same thing the next morning on June the 8th, repeated itself again. They came, the flying boxcar, DC-3s, the smaller planes, they came and they were taking pictures of us. And we felt very, very good about it because we were in the middle of a war zone. We're all by ourselves. We got 450 caliber machine guns. That doesn't do very much against anything. So the captain said, he sounded general quarters. We went to general quarters, which is a drill you go through in case of emergency, a fire, chemical drill. That day was a chemical drill. It was a beautiful, bright, sunny day. Our flag was flying, brand new flag, a 5x8, brand new flag. USS Liberty, clearly painted on the stern, and GTR 5 on both sides of the bow of the ship, port and starboard. No mistake of identity here. Now, before the attack, we picked up messages that Israel knew we were an American ship and friendly.
right.
American ship and friendly. So everything was fine, we thought. We go to damage control. We secure from that. I sold my gear in the forward repair locker. I was a assistant on-scene leader in the forward repair party, and soon became the on-scene leader when the chief was hit and he could no longer perform. So I'm a 20-year-old kid, and here I got this going, a third class petty officer, E4. So suddenly at 2 o'clock, well, actually, just before that, after I sold my gear, I went up to the starboard gun mount. The sound powered phones weren't working. So I went and got a guy by the name of David Skolak. He was a high seaman. He took care of the inboard communications, uh, you know, uh, sound powered phones and the um, captain's microphone coming over the ship, the 1MC. He took care of all that stuff. And he says, well, I'll get her going the best I can. And I stood up there and we talked a few minutes. And we could see the bombs going off. And like I say, it was very uncomfortable. And I said, man, this would be a bad place to be if we ever got attacked. It's right up here. I mean, you have no cover, no nothing. And just 30 or 40 seconds after I left there, all hell broke loose. The attack began. Just before that, they said, prepare to test the motor whaleboat. It was right outside my door on the starboard side. And it blew up, I thought, and I started to go out the hatch to see what was going on. This chief grabbed me by the nape of the neck and he said, get back in here, we're under attack. So I go straight to my duty station, down through the mess decks, not on the main deck. I go up to get to my repair station. And I mean, there's all hell. I mean, you can't imagine what they did to us. Rockets and cannons, napalm, machine guns. We did get them. Now they hit every antenna on that ship. Every antenna they hit on the first pass. Within 3 seconds, every antenna was destroyed and watertight or above the waterline.
So, Phil, let me just point something out for people who are hearing this for the first time. You're saying that for the better part of an entire day, if not longer, you were surveilled, and it is later determined that their surveillance of the USS Liberty revealed to Israel that they knew exactly what your mission was, that you were a SIGINT type reconnaissance vessel that was, for lack of a better word, spying in the area. You were picking up communications, and it is for that reason there's surveillance of you, so they can pinpoint exactly where those things were, map, as you just indicated, where the antennas were, because the ability to do your mission resided in those antennas. Okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. And they hit every antenna aboard the ship except one. It wasn't tuning. They took it out of commission. Terry Haldebardier did. He was a radioman. He took it out of commission. That's the only reason he didn't hit it. Now during this, the attack lasted 25 minutes. The air attack. The attacking planes were unmarked. These were black planes. There was no markings on them. Mystere and Mirage jets. They committed to at least 30 sorties over our ship with at least 12 different aircraft, shooting, killing, and maiming as many people as they could. They shot down our flag. Another one was the first pass. They shot it down. We put up another one. I didn't personally, but the signalman did. Another 5x8 brand new flag. They shot that one down. We only had one flag left called the Holiday Colors, 7x13. You've probably seen them, Roxanne.
Yes.
Huge flag. You couldn't miss it for
huge flag.
Yeah, you couldn't miss it from anywhere. So that was finally raised, and that flag did stay up during the rest of the attack. But during that 25 minutes, Terry Haldebardier did get a message out.
So can I say something about your effort to put that flag back up? because
Sure.
that's the single thing that, bar anything else, is so important to illustrate the fact that these bastards knew that this was a USS Navy ship. And now keep in mind what Phil had just said. They are liquid fire is being rained down on this ship. And these heroes went out under enemy fire to ensure that flag was flying so those bastards would be held accountable for attacking a U.S. Navy ship. This is critical to this story. Not once, but twice, they shot down the U.S. flag, the thing that we're all committed to dying for. And then twice, these brave heroes withstood napalm being dropped on their ship, strafing from French-made Mirage aircraft being rained down on them, and bombs to put the flag back up. Go ahead.
Yes, absolutely, and that's exactly what happened. A lot of brave men aboard that ship. No doubt about it. One of the greatest crews I ever had the pleasure of being around, for doubt, no doubt. We love each other. We take care of each other. The ones that are left and still trying to get the truth out. Terry Haldebardier did get that one antenna. He got it up and going. This is within the 25 minutes of the attack now, Roxanne, within this 25-minute span. Rockstar, under attack by unknown jet aircraft. Help us. This went out. In fact, this was picked up as far away as Vietnam. This one message. The 6th Fleet picked it up. Admiral Captain Tully of the USS Saratoga immediately launched aircraft to come to our aid. Even before they hit the horizon, they were recalled back by McNamara. Said, return those aircraft back to base right now. Return them back. They went back to base. They went back to their ship. And then a few minutes after that, Captain Tully and Captain Ingen off the USS America, launched again their ready aircraft to come help us, to drive off, because we didn't know who was attacking us, and they didn't either. They probably thought it was the Arabs as well. Before they could even get on the way, Johnson got on the hotline, the phone, and said, recall those GD aircraft. I could care less about a few dead sailors. I will not embarrass my ally. Now, how'd he know was attacking us if we didn't know? So that tells you that we were set there to be sunk by the Zionist state to bring us into World War III. And if you got any questions, I'll bring you into the torpedo attack after that. But go ahead, Roxanne.
So I just want to again reiterate something. So to their credit, now again, no one can second guess people in the middle of a war, but those Navy ship captains should have never recalled the aircraft when you have a vessel under attack, period, nonstop. I don't give a shit if it's the SecDef or the president. You render assistance to your fellow ships, period. But I do want to let those people know that I believe it was the America captain. He was also told initially by McNamara to recall, but they get, and I don't even know if there's a formal Navy name. I believe there is. They get like one bump up in the chain of command, and that's what brought Johnson in. The America captain, if I recall correctly, actually asked that one, because it was the second denial, that it be bumped up the chain, which when it was McNamara was Johnson. And then it was Johnson that said exactly what Phil just said. So they did question the recall and the leaving of the USS Liberty out as sitting ducks.
That we were sitting ducks, sent there by a crooked government to have us sunk by the Zionist state and blame it on somebody else. And that would have been Nasser. They hated Nasser. So did LBJ.
So what's interesting about that is if you guys kind of just pick up, and I'm so glad we started off with the history and how important Africa was to these bastards to keep them enslaved. So what Phil just said to you is that their mission was the coast of Africa. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that we've got a SIGINT ship whose mission is along the coast of Africa, picking up all of the information for any nationalists like Lumumba or any of the other countries that were trying to get their freedom from the European pariahs in the United States, all of the NATO aligned countries. And then when they get the window of opportunity, they get the SOS, hey, we need you over here because we're going to basically sacrifice you guys on the altar of being able to regime change in Egypt. So just wanted to tie what he was telling you guys all into a nice little bow that they have now the perfect setup because they're going to eliminate the vehicle that they had used to suppress Africa by the sinking of the USS Liberty. Go ahead.
Nice analysis. The jet aircraft finally quit, and we thought it was perhaps over. They were done with us. We thought. We didn't know who was attacking us still. And then here come there was 3 mortar torpedo boats. All 3 of them had the Star of David on them. We could see the Star of David. We thought, oh, good, our buddies are here to come. They're going to come help us, our best friends in the whole wide world. No, they weren't coming there to help us. They were coming there to sink us. The jet aircraft were sent there to soften us up, to make us incommunicado. Well, they did more than soften us up, but I'll tell you about what they did to us after this. But the 3 torpedo boats were getting close. They were probably 1,800 yards off, and they fired 5 torpedoes at us. I saw 2 go aft. Where the other 2 went, I don't know. But I know where one hit, and that was in the communications spaces, where 25 young, intelligent, beautiful young men, spies, lost their lives. CIA and NSA people lost their lives in that blink of an eye. They were blown to bits. I mean, literally blown to bits from that torpedo explosion.
That is the SIGINT belly, which those surveillance missions targeted as the place where the signals were emanating from. So they knew exactly where to hit that ship to eliminate everyone that was hearing everything that was going on shore.
Well, I don't know if it was exactly targeted in that particular area, but if they hit the engine room, which is 1 frame back, we sink for sure. But
I don't think they wanted the witnesses. That's my
no,
opinion.
they did. Yeah, no, they wanted no witnesses, and
yeah,
I'll tell you about that one. This went on for another hour and a half, and we're all alone. The entire attack lasted about 2 hours, as long as the attack on Pearl Harbor. As long as the attack on Pearl Harbor, and help was only 40 minutes away, and our government would not allow anyone to come help us. They left us out there for 17 hours.
Yep.
17 hours waiting for help. The USS America and the USS Davis, which was a destroyer, they came aboard off the Davis and helped us with damage control. Where the torpedo hit, I mean, both sides of the bulkheads were ballooned up. I mean, it looked like a big balloons with leaks in them. So we got that shored up. They took the most seriously wounded off the ship to the America or other places they could get better care, definitive care. Now, Dr. Keeper, that night, he worked on people for 17 hours nonstop. He had been shot in the stomach and both knees, and he had a life jacket on to keep his guts in. The mess decks is where most of our wounded were. In fact, all of them up in sick bay. Wherever we could put a person, that's where they were. That's where they stayed. And it was a sea of broken and bloodied men. Something you never want to see.
What's the number of dead and wounded?
There was 34 dead and 174 wounded. They took the most seriously off the next day, but I got to tell you what the torpedo boats did. They circled the ship and circled the ship and circled the ship, firing 50 caliber machine guns, armor-piercing bullets into us. We thought we were going to sink. We were going to put our most seriously wounded in life rafts. There were only 3 life rafts left aboard that ship. We had enough for 294 souls. There were only 3 life rafts left.
Because they destroyed them.
They destroyed them all. They either burned them up or shot them up or blew them up. We put over the 3 life rafts. The Israeli torpedo gunmen shot 2 of them out of the water and took one aboard the boat as a trophy of the kill. They wanted no survivors. No survivors at all. And we thought we were sinking, but by the grace of God and by the hand of God, that's why I'm here right now. He kept that old ship up. I mean, we were just his servants that day. But he deserves all the credit. Jesus Christ does. Kept us alive for moments like this to tell the truth.
Yes, and it definitely needs to be told, because stuff like this cannot happen. I want to reiterate something that you said about the Mayday call that went out. So understanding that this capability, the reception capability of SIGINT, when he made the comment that it was heard as far as Vietnam, that's one way. It was heard equally the other way. You are talking about SIGINT receiver sites everywhere, to include Spain, where they launched from, Europe, London, which is where McCain was at, and all of that stuff. And having worked, my ex, by the way, was in the SecDef's office. I understand the relaying of message traffic in cases such as this. They would have, within less than 5 minutes, known that the USS Liberty was under attack at the SecDef's office, at the White House, at the CNO's office, at NCI, every place that you can imagine, CIA, every place that you can imagine, NSA. They all knew that the USS Liberty was under attack, and for 17 hours did not a fucking thing to help them. Nothing.
Absolutely. And the kicker is, this is another harsh blow we had to take. 2 days after the attack, we were headed to Malta, which was 1,000 miles away from where we got attacked. We got a 40 by 40 torpedo hole in our side, and they sent us all the way to Malta when the closest port was Crete. We never could figure that one out. Admiral Isaac Kidd, Flag Admiral, he came aboard along with his assistant. He was a JAG officer, Captain Ward Boston, 06. And they interrogated what crew was left aboard the ship. And I stayed with the ship and brought her home. But I was in a sick bay with 4 or 5 other guys, and they cordoned us off in little groups or singularly to say, hey, this is what we got to find out to sort this out, to get the truth out, yeah, by a wink and a nod, get the truth out. So we're in sick bay. He takes off his stars and throws them on the sick bay table, and it kind of rang out like a bell. He said, now listen, guys, I know you've been through hell, but I got to get this while it's fresh in your mind. Tell me everything that happened, everything you saw, everything you witnessed, what you felt, what you thought. And we did that. And because I felt, like this is the only way I'm going to ever get this off my mind and have it recorded properly. And we told him about the machine gunning of life rafts, of course, the unmarked planes, what they did to the crew. I mean, they shot us up like Swiss cheese. If you were on deck, you were in trouble. You're in deep trouble because you were going to get hit. He said, Now I'm putting my stars back on because I asked him, I said, Admiral, how come you didn't send help? How come we didn't get help? Uh, we knew help was somewhere around there. Uh, they shoot up the life rafts and they wanted to sink our ship and kill us all. And we knew it was the Israelis, and you guys did nothing to come help us. I thought they were our friends. And he put his stars back on. He says, I'm going to tell every one of you son of a bitches. And he got right in my face. He said, if you ever breathe a word about what you just told me, any of you, I'll make sure you end up in prison or worse. You know what worse means?
Dead.
I said, yes, sir, I do. Yes, sir. And he left. So we were scared shitless. Our own government did this to us and then told us to never talk about it to anybody, not even my family. And I didn't talk about it for 18 years after
Did
the
you
fact.
guys ever have to sign an NDA?
I had to sign an agreement I would never sue Israel or the United States, and they gave me $200 for my signature and said sign it. And that's what I did. Which I don't think is worth the paper it's written on, to be honest with you.
No,
But
absolutely not.
they did that
It was
to
under
everybody.
duress. It was
Oh
under
yeah.
duress. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were just glad to get out of there with our lives.
So can you tell the audience where Crete is in
It's
relationship to where you guys were?
it's probably I don't know, a day steaming several hundred miles from
What country is it part
the
of?
coast of this. I'm not sure. I haven't been asked that before.
Okay, because I want to make a point of this because I'm going to tell you why you went to Malta and not Crete. Hold on just a second.
Okay, good. I'm going to learn something here.
Crete is part of Greece.
Okay.
Greece is part of NATO. NATO attacked you guys. NATO was behind all of this. You were not allowed to go to Crete because you would have been able to talk to Greek citizens within NATO, and all of this would have been exposed. Malta, on the other hand, has always been used since post-World War II as a haven to hide their criminality. And because of the isolation of Malta, everything around you guys was controlled. No one was allowed access to you that wasn't part of the entire scheme. That could not have happened in Crete.
Correct. I happen to agree with that very much. So it makes sense.
Yes.
Our ship was there for 33 days getting repaired. There were over 821 rocket and cannon holes in the ship. Over 5,000 armor-piercing bullets in this ship. Napalm had burnt the whole side, the starboard side on the bridge up. They were going to burn us up. In a 40 by 40 foot hole in the torpedo side, in the starboard side. Our ship, the USS Liberty, is the most decorated ship in naval history for a single engagement. The most decorated, from the Medal of Honor, Navy Cross, Silver Star, Bronze Stars, Purple Hearts, Combat Action, Presidential Unit Citation, you name it.
All of which without a proper investigation.
Absolutely. No investigation. The Board of Inquiry concluded by orders from John McCain and, of course, LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, the snake, to say it was mistaken identity when all the facts point the other way. And Admiral Kidd nor Boston ever said a word till later in life. Well, Admiral Kidd died before Boston came out. He was a JAG officer that wrote the report. And it was, in fact, that report was taken from Admiral Starring. He was supposed to review it because he had problems with the facts. He says the facts don't match up. to what really happened. They took that report away from him, and he never saw it again because he didn't want to sign off on it. Anyway, it was signed off in 7 days, and that's been the official record since June the 8th, 1967. It was a case of mistaken identity. It would take a complete idiot to believe that. I just, how they come up with that one, I don't know, but they did. And the whole country bought it. Every president since LBJ to Trump has bought that explanation. A case of mistaken identity. It was not a case of mistaken identity. We were set there to be sunk by the Zionist state. Blame it on Nasser and the Arab states, and Israel would have taken over all the Middle East. The land grab that they're taking now would have happened in 1967. It would have got it all. Think
for the USS Liberty.
Right. If we think we're in a world war.
So the only mistaken identity is it would require you to believe two things: that it was mistaken identity and blind people can fly airplanes.
There you go. That's a very good explanation. Roxanne, there were SAC aircraft. I know what you know what those are. In the air, right. In the air, going to the Middle East to nuke Israel. I mean, Egypt. Even before we went in, were attacked. They were going that way. Yes. What book is that?
Operation Cyanide.
Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, that's Peter Hunem book.
Yes. And he documents the B-52 sitting on the tarmac being given the ready mission to start their engines to fly to this before the first bombing.
Absolutely. And Peter's a good guy. He's a friend of mine. Smart guy. He lives in Scotland.
Yeah, we did a book review on Operation Cyanide as part of the whole exposing of the USS Liberty.
Right.
And Philip, not to interrupt, but I just have to say this for the entire audience. I spent 30 years in the United States Air Force. I went to squadron officers course. I went to Air Command and Staff course. I went to Air War College in residence with a master's degree in what I thought to be all of the primary military engagements and a worldwide look at military presence, economic, geopolitical, blah, blah, blah. Not one time in 30 years was the word USS Liberty ever spoken about, ever.
Right. That's how secret it was. Covered up. Let's not say a secret, but just covered up layer by layer by layer. And our Congress.
Ignored.
Right. Our Congress, you write them, be prepared to be lied to. They said, well, it's already been investigated. We've investigated over and over again. They've never investigated anything. They're all liars. They're beholden to one government, the Zionist state of Israel. It's like Thomas Massey said, everybody's got an APAC handler, and I guess they had him back then too. But they will not investigate the USS Liberty. We are taboo to them, and why? They're covering their own rear ends too, because our own government put us in a war zone to be set up to be sunk and blame it on another country. Now, how crooked? Have you ever heard anything so crooked? I mean, there's a lot of bad things that go on, but we're eyewitnesses of this, and they call us Jew haters and Nazis and anti-Semites, and everything under the book, everything under the sun. Yeah, for telling the truth. And we get labeled. I mean, figure it out. They did all the murdering. Israel did all the murdering, all the damage.
Which brings us to our next point. So in the last 5 years, there has been 3, and some people knew about it before this, but written in normal communication on the internet, there's been 3 instances revealed. The Ross Setter massacre that happened on June 8th of 1967. The mass grave on the West Bank, which Israel turned into a national park, where eventually another mass grave was discovered. That mass grave happened on 5 June, which would have been part of the 7-day war. And Lelarish massacre. That one happened right, that city is right on the coast of where the USS Liberty was. They're in international waters, which has to be said. They were not in any one country's waters. They were not in violation of anybody's territory. They're sailing along the coast of Egyptian international waters, right north of this town, El Arish. El Arish had Egyptian prisoners of war, so many of them that Israel decided that they were not going to transport them to any facility, that they were going to mass murder them and bury them after they had already been restrained in a grave. And that's been discovered. It's been documented. It's in plenty of normal communication. So during the course of the some happened a day before they got there, but during their surveillance of this war zone, mass murder by the IDF was happening along the coast, in which they were murdering, just like we did in Vietnam, just like we did in Nicaragua, just like we did in Guatemala. This is not an isolated incident. We've done this as well. We've buried people in mass graves. It happened in Cambodia. The CIA unleashed terrorists that resulted in mass casualties that were buried in graves. This is what Israel was participating in. And it is my summation that because of the advanced, as Phil articulated, the advanced, latest state-of-the-art surveillance equipment, all of this information would have been picked up by the linguist in that SIGINT capability and transmitted outside of the USS Liberty, which is the critical part. So there would be no denying that the United States and all of NATO knew the atrocities that Israel was committing. And the USS Liberty translators, not the crew, but the translators that were instantly murdered when that torpedo hit that boat, would have been the sole surviving people that could attest to those atrocities.
James Bamford, in Body of Secrets in the Puzzle Palace, he talks exactly what you're talking about. The prisoners being mowed down in mass graves by the Israelis, rather than transport them, as you said. They slaughtered them right there and covered them up with bulldozers.
So let's talk about what the end result of this was, of the 1967, because that's what it's all about. Who benefited from it? Israel ended up with Jerusalem, all of Jerusalem. They ended up with the West Bank, Gaza, Golan Heights, and the Sinai Peninsula. Okay, that was the case. They go to war again in 73, and then they have a peace settlement in 1979. So the Golan Heights happened right after the USS Liberty was taken out, the massacre in the Golan Heights area. And that is not unlike what just happened with the Hamas attack on Israel on October 7th. It was not an immediate response to Gaza, just like for Israel, it was not an immediate attack in response. Well, they did the initial attack in Egypt, but they did it at the same time all over here. They're conquering all of this surrounding area. That's what it's always about. It's a diversion over here to go over here. And you have to understand that they have an ultimate goal, and anybody that is in the way of that ultimate goal is fair game for being killed.
Yes, we were the sacrificial lambs, and the captured soldiers were the sacrificial lambs. And you're right; it was all for one reason: a land grab. And I'll believe that till the day I die. And it's still a land grab. But
so, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, that's fine. Well, the thing that the crew of the USS Liberty is trying to do, which there's not that many of us left, we're all dying out of one reason or another. And our goal is to tell the truth and bring out the truth to American public and the world. They deserve to know what this government did and what Israel did to us. They got paid more money by the United States than they ever did in their existence for murdering American servicemen on the high seas, doing what their government had ordered them to do. We didn't know we were on a ship destined for death. But like as I said before, the good Lord kept us here for a reason, and I think that reason is right now for every show or every person I can talk to. I don't care who it is. That's the reason, is to get the word out. So this doesn't happen again. Well, it's been happening over and over again, probably more than we even know, and we don't know
Correct.
about it. Yeah, but the USS
But
Liberty veterans.
because we weren't able to get the word out, because they controlled the media. Now is the first time that we have had the ability to communicate with each other in a way that they don't control.
Yeah, well, the alternative media, X, the internet. I mean, if we didn't have that, we'd still be in the Stone Age with the USS Liberty. It'd always be that way, because the press never helped us, the government never helped us, our Congress people never helped us. Nobody come to help us. In fact, the American Legion, we had two men there, Ernie Gallo and Glenn Oliphant, at the American Legion, 5 or 6 years ago, with a booth handing out stuff about the USS Liberty and talking to other people about it, trying to get the truth out. And they wouldn't allow us to have a booth. And we already sent $1,000 there to have a booth. They said they never got the check. So okay, we'll pay cash or credit card, whatever, so we can have our booth. So no, you can't have one. So
The American Legion has notoriously been part of the collusion of the CIA to stifle veterans issues.
absolutely. And Glenn Oliphant tore his American Legion card up and it sprinkled on a woman's chest. He didn't throw it at her. He was right in front of her, just tore it up. It dropped down on her boobs. And they arrested him for assault.
Oh my
and put him,
God.
and put him in jail. Put him in jail. He still got that on his record. And the American Legion has banned the USS Liberty from ever attending any of their meetings. The
What
USS Liberty
bastards.
is banned by the American Legion. Anybody that belongs to American Legion is just suck. They're, I guess
That's
they're.
crazy.
It is. People in the American Legion need to stand up and write those commanders and those those guys who get in positions. They start low and they get high, and it's all political. The whole damn thing. VFW, American Legion, all of them is political.
So let me ask you something about that was in Peter's book about the submarine. There, he documents the fact that a USS submarine was basically shadowing you guys, and that there was also a Russian submarine in the area that watched the torpedo portion of this, and was. And I've read other accounts of this, that they potentially was the reason that they gave up the final attack on sinking it, because now there were other witnesses. What is your take on that?
That very well could be so. The USS Amberjack, we heard filmed it. USS Amberjack and the USS Andrew Jackson was there also. And as you mentioned, a Russian submarine that was ready to hit Israel, only minutes away if everything goes off as planned. They were going to nuke Israel. So us
For
not
the
sinking,
attack on Egypt, for what they were
right,
doing to Egypt. Yeah.
right. So us not sinking put a wrench in their plans, and I bet they're still scratching their heads. They can't figure out why we didn't sink. And of course, if we sink, anybody who was in the water was going to get shot up. There's no doubt about it. In fact, when the torpedo hit, I told a friend of mine, he was standing next to me, Rick Ametti. I said, "Man, I will not try to save my life. I'm going down with this ship because I'm not going to let them shoot me in the water." And that was exactly what was in my mind. I was not going to do anything but just die because I was not going to give them the satisfaction of shooting me.
So, you know what's interesting about now, obviously, I've done a lot of research into Gladio and how it seems that Gladio being, basically regime change overthrows, over 90 of them successful since World War II, over 400 of them attempted. And so, what you always find is looming in the background, like when we were trying to do it in Algeria and several of the Eastern European countries in the immediate aftermath of the World War II. Russia, Soviet Union, had spies everywhere. And they were able to thwart most of it. Like we dropped Gladio units into Albania, and they were all killed immediately. So there were spies. And of course, we've heard lots of the who we think were the spies, but it was not one person. They had to have a multiple network. And the story of the Russian sub, after knowing what I know about how the Soviet Union always seemed to be one step ahead in protection of this Gladio operation at all, as soon as I read that in that book, I was like, oh, well, that's interesting, because I wonder if they were actually there because they knew what NATO was going to try to do to the USS Liberty, and if they would have used it for blackmail. If the Liberty would have sunk, they would have had the ability then to forever control a whole bunch of different things, because they would have had blackmail material on a whole, and maybe they used it as blackmail anyway because they knew where it originated from.
Absolutely. They know exactly what was going on. Uh, uh, Russia is not stupid.
They
They
are
know
not.
exactly right. They know exactly what was going on, and you're right. Probably still blackmailing them over this. Who knows? I wish they would come up and say, "Hey, this is what really happened, guys." That would help out a lot. But you know, uh, our main goal, our main mission, as I said, is to get the truth out, let the American public know. And we're a small group, and if you want to donate, I mean, I always ask everybody every show I go on or whatever. If you want to donate to USS Liberty, go to usslibertyveterans.org, usslibertyveterans.org, and donate $1, just $1.
Absolutely.
If you can donate more, that'd be great. If you want to join our association, you could do that for $20 and become an associate member for a year, and continue your membership. But we need people like you, Colonel, and we need many more people like you, like brave people like Admiral uh, Thomas Moore. He was a World War II ace pilot too, and he was the only admiral in the United States that ever commanded the European and the Pacific forces, not at the same time, but he's the only one that ever did that, and he was
Yeah,
two
that's very
times
rare.
right, and he was two times chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Yes.
And he emphatically says this is not a mistaken identity. He's urged the Congress over and over to investigate it. In fact, the Moore Report, if you haven't read it yet, you need to, called the Moore Report. We got a lot of different things on our site, and it is being updated right now to make it super easy, super fast for people to use and get knowledge and donate if they'd like. But usslibertyveterans.org, and we'd appreciate that. Like I say, there's only not that many of us left anymore. Everybody's dying out. But there's enough of us left to keep fighting for the next 10 or 15 years, I hope.
And you guys have an annual meeting. Tell us about that.
Right. That's in this year. It will be in Norfolk, Virginia on the 6th, 7th, and 8th of June. It's going to be a big, nice reunion, I hope. We should have perhaps maybe 20 survivors there, at least 16 I know of for now, but at least 16, maybe more, and other interested people from around the country, around the world. If you want to come, talk to us, learn things, please do. In fact, you're welcome if you want to come.
Well, your media guy invited me earlier, and I am definitely going to try to come. I would love to
Oh,
meet you guys all in person. I would love to be there and lend my support in any way I can. So I am definitely going to try to make it.
oh, that'd be great. I'll get you the information, or John Dixon, he can get you all that stuff for you. Where it's going to be at, and what hotel and everything it is. But that'd be a
Yep.
joy to see you. We got
I,
a lot of good people coming out there. It'd be wonderful to meet you and give you a big salute, or maybe a hug too.
that will definitely be a date. I am definitely putting it on my calendar. So unless something unforeseen comes up, I am definitely planning on being there.
That'd be great. And I don't know how much more you got to go, but uh, I just do want to thank you again. And you're one smart cookie. I'll tell you that. You know what you're talking about, and to make it to the rank of full bird colonel isn't easy, especially in the Air Force.
Well, I started
Right?
off as an airman basic aircraft maintenance person. So
Oh,
yeah,
you worked your way up
I definitely worked my way up.
from E1 to what, to oh
Oh
06.
06. Yep.
Yeah, that ain't bad.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say a couple of things. We had a couple of people post. Teresa 67. I feel honored to witness this interview. Lulu of 2 says hero sailors. Absolutely. And Dwayne Cates, a very dear friend of mine, said this means the DC and the Pentagon had been briefed and agreed to the Liberty being sunk with all hands on deck. That is absolutely a true statement, Dwayne. That is the obvious conclusion. You cannot draw any other conclusion from this. So I just wanted to give those guys a shout out with their comments, and thank everybody, Stellar and Bridget A. Taylor, for being in the comments. I've noticed as we've been talking that Twitter has tried to take us down a couple of different times.
Oh yeah.
Every time I do a space, I do one every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. They mess with my volume because this is the kind of stuff I talk about nonstop, and they do not like that.
Oh no, they don't like it. There's no doubt about that. They try to silence people that make sense, and President Trump said common sense is all you need. And I voted for President Trump 3 times. Uh, Even when the Abraham Accords came around, I thought to myself, and I told my wife this and other people, if there's peace in the Middle East, the Abraham Accords is fine with me. Just no more killing, no more wars for the Zionist state. But you know how that worked out, and I think President Trump's an honorable man. I think he will. As he said, be transparent. He's transparent with everything else. Be transparent with the USS Liberty, sir. Tell the American public, tell the world the truth about the USS Liberty. One of the biggest, one of the most heinous cover-ups in United States history for men that are alive. It's easy to cover up dead people's lives, but not people that are alive. And we're alive here to tell the truth. So
You are
that's going to be a
absolutely
difficult
right.
task. Absolutely. And
Yeah. Thank you so much for saying that, Phil. That is such a critical point in all of this. And so, again, I just want to say we put links to the pictures of the USS Liberty and all of the information that I referenced when the Rumble video is ready for publication. You guys will be able to find the links in that. And definitely we'll be keeping in touch with Phil as we find more and more information, because it's literally a daily adventure in finding pieces that are relevant. Because I got to tell you, Phil, I did the 2 shows that I did on the Alpha Warrior program, which we linked in the Rumble as well, which was firsthand for me as a colonel, again, educated through the military, brainwashed is what I like to call it.
yes,
Never having heard of the USS Liberty, which, to me is just appalling. And when I stumbled across it and I bought this Operation Cyanide, I was in the middle of the series with Alpha Warrior, and we did a 2-part series on the USS Liberty, and it was fresh. You can hear my outrage, because the thought that you could spend 30 years in the military and never have come across one of the biggest travesties that has ever occurred in U.S. military history, which is what happened to the USS Liberty at the hands of a quote unquote ally. I mean, it doesn't get any more disgusting. It's like being stabbed literally in the back. For all Americans not to even just talk about the dead bodies, the injuries, and the atrocities. But each and every American, when they find out what happened, should feel like you have a knife in your back. And the craziness of the entire story as it unfolded. And then I didn't know at the time when we did that series all of the information that I've discovered since then, the history of Yemen, the history of Egypt, and how all of that. And every time I do a new dig that somehow, and a lot of them do, tie back to the USS Liberty, I just get this overwhelming sense, my God, those people were just doomed. And the kind of like the glory of God in saving you guys to tell your story. It just is so overwhelming from someone observing it from the outside. I cannot in any way, Phil, thank you enough from the bottom of my heart for being brave to share this, because I understand how they try to silence people. And you, sir, are one of the bravest people that I've ever had the opportunity to talk to.
Well, thank you for that. I really appreciate your comments, and I sent you a CIA memo. We talked about earlier. You need to read that. Maybe put it up on your site, but it's not blacked out, and I think you'll find it very interesting. And you
I
might.
will definitely do that, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity to have you back after I've had a chance to look at it. I did notice a couple of things just in the few minutes that we had before the show when you sent that to me that I am definitely going to want to talk to you about.
Okay, well, I appreciate it, and looking forward to seeing you again, and hopefully in June we'll get together.
Absolutely. Thank you again, sir, for being here.
Well,
Appreciate it.
thank you. God bless you, and have a great day. Bye bye.
God bless you.